It is hard to articulate the relevance of the avocado in American culture. We could talk about the health fads, the nutritional value, the international politics of importing and exporting food, Mexican drug cartels, international development, soil quality, human trafficking, or even the best recipes for avocado toast. Today, we are going to be telling the very interesting story of how this little fruit took over a country and how it might be speeding out of control. This video is sponsored by Hothouse Tomatoes. In a world of increasing food prices, many are ditching those overpriced novelty fruit and vegetables and choosing more traditional and hearty things like Hothouse Tomatoes. Is it possible to get sponsored by a tomato company? Because I feel like getting sponsored by a vegetable would be like the most future-proof thing ever. Jokes aside, today's video is brought to you by Patreon. Now, this channel is dedicated to talking about products and brands that are making the things that we need to buy and consume every day to survive. And over on Patreon, we have a full-length dedicated podcast where we break down things in more detail. We also have behind-the-scenes content, and you have the ability to ask us questions and gain that closer relationship with the process that goes into making these videos. So if you enjoy what we're doing here, consider supporting us over there. So let's set the scene here a little bit. At the close of 2022, avocado prices plummeted. But to be fair, 6 months earlier, they had skyrocketed when supply wouldn't meet demand. All those corporate avocado boys were feeling pretty good then. Now I know what you're thinking. We're in a pandemic-driven era where exploitative inflation and all these wacky prices are going crazy. Now all of this may be true, but for a minute, let's remember that we're talking about a fruit. Avocados as a global commodity. There are not a lot of food items in the world that have reached the level of importance in our culture that they are being talked about by economists. And the story of how they went from unknown fruit to a punchline is truly incredible. First of all, I think we need to get some facts straight. Yes, number one, avocados are a fruit, not a vegetable. If you want to get really technical, they're actually a berry, like each avocado itself is one berry. Two, they are native to Mexico and Central America, but can grow pretty much wherever as long as there's enough heat and water. And last but not least, three, in an Aztec dialect, the word for avocado means testicle because it's shaped like a ball sack. And just one bonus one, yeah, mole means sauce, but guacamole is just guacamole, okay? So we're all on the same page here. So counter to what you might think, avocados weren't always popular to the point that they were being turned into pool floaties. Their popularity is the product of a very deliberate and impressive marketing campaign that has not really been replicated since. California first started growing avocados back in the 60s actually, but they didn't catch on right away. Californian growers had to put a lot of money into marketing and advertising avocados to the US market because for anyone outside of Latin America, this was a completely new food. Now, if you're a Gen Z person watching this video, you gotta understand that like when I was a kid, avocados didn't exist. Like I remember at the age of 7 or 8 or something, eating an avocado for the first time. And I hated it.
Avocado! Thanks!
Now these Californian growers wanted to get this avocado toast thing going because they were the only ones selling in the United States. They had a monopoly on those profits. Check out these ads from the 70s and 80s trying to reach out to housewives about guacamole. Now I can't say how popular crunchy ham salad on the half shell was, but then a few other things happened that supercharged avocado's popularity. The 1980s low-fat food craze had people obsessing over good fats and bad fats, and it just so happens that avocados fell into the good fat category. We've seen this happen with other foods, right? For a year or two, a certain food like acai berries or quinoa have a moment where they are the thing to eat to stay in shape or to get healthy, and they become insanely popular. We're gonna be talking about that a little bit later too. But then, in the 90s, the US lifted import restrictions from Mexico, and the floodgates opened. By the 2000s, imported avocados made up 85% of the US market, and thanks to imports, Americans could dip their chips year-round, not limited by California's growing season. Increasing numbers of Latin American immigrants also helped push avocados more and more into the mainstream. And all this culminates into the millennial avocado toast boom of the 20-teens. There's a lot of ways to eat avocados, obviously, but for some reason, this was the format that really gave avocados their big moment. There is a lot of boring debate about who did it first, so let's just assume that Latin America did it first, and then Gwyneth Paltrow introduced it in her 2013 cookbook at the exact right timing for avocado toast to blow up on Instagram. Good on you, Gwyneth Paltrow. I'm glad that you got that one in your satchel of achievements. I'm actually not entirely sure what Gwyneth Paltrow does. I'm not very good with celebrity trivia.
Muy bien.
But okay, I actually cannot overstate how huge avocado toast got. By 2014, over 4 billion avocados were being eaten annually in America. And by 2017, it was a multi-billion-dollar industry. Avo toast went from food blogs to artisanal brunches to t-shirts to the reason why millennials will never be able to buy a house. It basically became a meme, but a meme that we will still spend $20 on to eat unironically. But the cultural landscape is just what we all saw online and in our local coffee shops. The story that not many people know about is the entity that made this all possible, the Hass Avocado Review Board. Now, you remember earlier when I said that Californian growers put a lot of effort into marketing avocados? In 2003, that energy got formalized into a nonprofit called the Hass Avocado Review Board. Their mission is to make avocados America's most popular fruit, and they are the reason that Hass owns the market and why we're a little worried about its future. The Hass Avocado Review Board, HAB, is named after the Hass avocado, obviously, which is the type of avocado that you are used to here in North America. There are like 500 types of avocados, just like you can get apples in a bunch of different varieties too. And from my own personal opinion, Hass is definitely not the coolest one. I mean, look at this weird avocado. And that weird avocado. But the reason why Hass avocados is special is because it is, 1, slow to ripen, and 2, has a thick skin. Basically, it travels well. Because these avocados were being presented to a North American market where avocados do not grow, they had to travel a fair distance to reach these markets. And getting jostled around in the back of trucks and being under ship decks and whatnot, these things needed to be tough. So today, most avocados in North America are Hass avocados. Like, a lot. In the US, it's over 95%. So the whole purpose and raison d'etre for the Hass Avocado Board is to promote Hass avocados in North America. And you could say that this little nonprofit has fully reached their goal. But they're a nonprofit, which is really interesting. So the way that they make their money and how much money they have and use is kind of hard to track down. Up here in Canada, we see ads for, Canadian beef or milk or eggs. So advertisements about the benefits of certain foods isn't totally unheard of, but very few have been quite so legendary. I mean, these guys totally crushed it. Like, at this point, I feel like we should be tasking them with slightly more important things, like tackling climate change or making parking lots less annoying. To accomplish this amazing feat, they use radio ads and press announcements about avocados and their health benefits. But their budget is huge. During its first 5 years, it spent a total of $93.1 million on Hass Avocado promotion. Hass Avocado also had a frickin' NASCAR sponsorship. And yeah, it's called the Hass Car. And this year, no joke, they ran a Super Bowl ad.
You were right. Avocados make everything better.
Ah, sweet liberty.
Now that's a tourist attraction.
A Super Bowl ad. Avocado sales must be doing pretty good if they can afford a $7 million Super Bowl ad, am I right? Everyone and their dog is eating avocados nowadays. So why are we speculating that there might be a fall on the horizon? That's a great question. When researching this episode, we came across something called neglected and underutilized species. These are traditional foods that have been important for local populations in a particular country for a long time, but aren't really a part of the global food market until they are. Think stuff like palm oil, teff, and quinoa. These foods typically follow a pretty predictable boom and then bust trajectory, but they enter the new markets that they eventually take over because of their supposed health benefits. Phase 1 is the promotion of the food as a superfood or something like that. Consumers are attracted to the food's high nutritional value and health promises. The marketing around these products typically target people who influence other people's eating choices, like health nuts, new agers, mommy groups, celebrities, influencers, you name it. It doesn't so much matter that the label superfoods isn't scientific by any means, but calling something a superfood tends to make you a lot of money. However, these early adopters are just the beginning. Eventually, the goal is to get this food to the masses, and avocados are well and truly there. Even fast food spots like Burger King and Subway have added guac to their menus. But on the back end of things, this sudden takeover has massive implications. This sudden increase in consumer demands leads to an increase in production, which means massive changes to land use, farming practices, water management, local access to food, and more. Everyone is suddenly racing to keep up with this booming market demand to make as much money as possible before the boom, which is phase 2. Everyone is suddenly rushing to keep up with this crazy demand to make as much money as possible because they all kind of know that the bust is coming. Do you remember quinoa? Between 2005 and 2013, the price of quinoa tripled as the US and Europe discovered this superfood. Farmers, mostly in Peru, pumped out the grain and made some pretty good money. Farmers replaced their crops like rice and veggies with quinoa in order to do that. But in 2014, we hit peak quinoa. And after that, it's all been pretty well downhill. So many farmers had entered the market and upped their production that suddenly supply exceeded demand. And while global popularity was still rising, prices began to fall. Smaller farmers couldn't afford to compete, and suddenly their monocrop fields of quinoa were essentially worthless and they were out of luck. Now, obviously there is a lot more to the quinoa story. If you're interested in hearing about stuff like that, let us know, because from our preliminary research, it is a wild one. But back to avocados. As we already mentioned, avocados have been having some fluctuations in their performance. First half of 2022 was booming, but by the end of the year, we saw overproduction, saturated markets, and falling prices. Even though economic speculators still predict global market increases and press releases boast huge numbers, like apparently the US broke a record importing 2.48 billion pounds of avocados just last year, some producers like Peru saw 0% profit. God, Peru just, they get the short end of the stick a lot of the time. First quinoa, then avocados.
Oh, I can't believe you've done this.
In 2023, prices are falling again so far, and more sources look like they're starting to sweat about the future of avocados. Now remember, the global avocado market is 50% America. And now over 90% of America's avocados are imported from Mexico and Central America. These crops are heavily influenced by the Haas Avocado Review Board, which follows federal marketing orders. That means that a lot of the success of those Latin American farmers is balanced in the hands of the US government, which isn't exactly known for its goodwill. And this particular dynamic is exactly the opposite of what a bunch of studies looking at this sort of boom and bust trajectory of these vegetables recommends to protect local growers and secure food systems. Add on top of this that we have a changing climate that is probably going to make growing avocados harder, and the fact that avocado trees take 4 years to grow before they start developing any fruit, you can see how the future of this beloved product may be a little precarious. Of course, we cannot see where this is going to go truly in the future, and this is our opinion. If you are very emotionally connected to your avocados, please do not get angry in the comments unless you want to, because that's always good for engagement as well. But if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like it, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you here every single week.